Have you ever pondered the ethical implications of the production of electric vehicles? It's a question that's been coming up more and more as we witness the rapid growth of the electric vehicle industry. We've all heard about the environmental benefits of these vehicles. They're designed to reduce carbon emissions, helping us combat the pressing issue of climate change. But behind the scenes, a different story emerges, one that's not as serene or beneficial. A recent report has cast a spotlight on a less talked about aspect of EV production, the use of cobalt. This mineral, crucial for the rechargeable lithium-ion batteries that power these vehicles, is primarily sourced from mines in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. But here's the catch. These mines might be employing child labor. Yes, you heard that right. The green revolution that's set to transform our transport system could potentially be fueled by the sweat and toil of children working in hazardous conditions. It's a stark contrast, isn't it? On one hand, we're trying to save the planet, but on the other, we might be overlooking a serious humanitarian crisis. As we embrace the green revolution, it seems we're also turning a blind eye to a looming humanitarian crisis. Now that we've understood the ethical dilemma of EV production, let's delve deeper into the cobalt supply chain. The cobalt supply chain is complex, spanning across continents and involving numerous intermediaries. After being extracted from the mines in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the cobalt ore is usually sold to Chinese companies. These companies, often state-owned, refine the cobalt ore into a form that can be used in batteries. From here, the cobalt is sold to battery manufacturers who supply these batteries to EV companies across the globe. The companies that produce electric vehicles often have no direct connection to the mines where the cobalt is sourced, making it difficult to implement ethical practices across the supply chain. The lack of transparency in this supply chain further contributes to the problem. The cobalt passes through so many hands that it becomes almost impossible to trace its origins. This allows unethical practices such as child labor to slip through the cracks. As the cobalt travels from the mines to the EV batteries, it's easy for the ethical issues associated with its extraction to be overlooked. Imagine the journey of a small piece of cobalt from the depths of an African mine to the battery of an electric vehicle. The story of cobalt is one of resilience and hardship. A tale that begins in the heart of Africa, in a country known as the Democratic Republic of Congo. This nation, rich in natural resources, is the world's leading producer of cobalt, accounting for nearly 70% of the global supply. But the journey from the earth to the EV battery is not an easy one. Down in the depths of the mines, cobalt is extracted under harsh conditions. The air is thick with dust, the heat is oppressive, and the work is backbreaking. Yet it's not just the arduous physical labor that paints a grim picture. The darker side of this narrative is the involvement of child labor. In these mines, children, some as young as 7, work long hours, their small hands expertly sorting and washing the cobalt ore. The work is not only physically demanding but also dangerous. The risk of mine collapses is high and the exposure to toxic substances constant. From these mines, the cobalt begins its global journey. It's processed, refined, and finally incorporated into lithium-ion batteries. These are the batteries that power our smartphones, laptops, and increasingly, our electric vehicles. The Democratic Republic of Congo, despite its wealth in cobalt, remains one of the poorest countries in the world. The mining communities even more so. The cobalt that leaves these mines carries with it the sweat and tears of those who toil under the African sun, the dreams of children traded for the promise of progress. And so the journey ends with our small piece of cobalt nestling in the battery of a sleek, modern electric vehicle, a symbol of a greener future, a beacon of technological advancement. But behind this shiny facade, it hides a tale of suffering and exploitation. This piece of cobalt, now part of a sleek EV, carries with it a tale of suffering and exploitation. Now that you know the story behind your EV's battery, what will you do? We live in a world where our choices carry weight. When we turn a blind eye to the ethical implications of our desires, we indirectly condone systems of exploitation and abuse. The cobalt that powers our electric vehicles, as we've discovered, may be tainted with the sweat and tears of child labor. As consumers, we have the power to demand transparency and ethical practices in every step of the EV production process. We can choose to support companies that prioritize not just innovation but also the dignity of every hand that contributes to their products. In light of these revelations, some companies are already readjusting their EV targets and slowing down production. They are taking a pause, reassessing their supply chains, and seeking ways to ensure their progress doesn't come at the expense of human rights. This is a call to action for all of us. Let's not settle for progress that is built on the suffering of others. Let's choose to drive change not just in our vehicles but in the entire industry. Your choices have power. Use it to demand ethical practices in every step of the EV production, because progress should never be at the expense of human rights.